Lido in Paris is aflame with celebrities on the Champs-Élysées for the opening of a new and zesty show. Everybody who is anybody is there. The Duke of Windsor heads the notables, which include Michelle Morgan and the famous mustache of Salvador Dali and veteran Maurice Chevalier. The show itself scores an instant hit for the festive season, as well as the dancing which follows. Author Francois Sagan sets the pace for an occasion that is truly Parisian, truly festive, and in every sense a success.
Inclusion makes a brighter sector for us all, for our benefit. Let's bring the lights out and shine. Come on, equality begins with you. Making your history equally, all in one sector. Look at what we can be.
Hello, and lovely to see you again. I'm going to take a break from the lab to go and see some future scientists in the classroom. Can anyone name any famous scientists?
Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Francis Bacon.
Well, unfortunately, studies show that children picturing mostly male scientists instead of female is quite common. I'll pass the chalk to the Science and Technology Policy Lady to help us understand more. Hello, and happy to see you came back for another helping. Scientists agree. We need more women scientists and leaders to help save the planet. Remember the Scully effect?
The fictitious FBI agent inspired a generation of young women to pursue careers in STEM, a phenomenon that even has its own name, the Scully effect. It's been noted in STEM circles for years. In 2018, 21st Century Fox tasked the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media, a nonprofit research organization, with finding out whether there was any hard truth to the phenomenon. The researchers surveyed more than 2,000 women to examine what they thought about STEM and how they perceived Scully. Among the women who are familiar with the character, 50% say Scully increased their interest in STEM, and 43% say that they considered working in STEM because of her. The survey also found women who watched more X-Files episodes had an increased likelihood of working in STEM fields. With medium and heavy viewers, 50% were more likely to have worked in a STEM field because of how she was depicted. And among women who are familiar with the character, 91% said that she was a role model for girls and women. 2/3 of the women surveyed that work in STEM today say Dana Scully served as their role model. Representation is important. It's something missing in real-life laboratories. Scully was often the only woman in the labs, and that reflects reality. Between 1966 and 1977, the social scientist David Chambers asked 4,807 elementary school children, mostly from Canada and the United States, to draw a scientist. Their illustrations regularly featured white coats, eyeglasses, lab equipment, and books. Often the depicted scientists exclaim things like, "I made a discovery," or simply, "Wow." The Draw a Scientist test has become a classic piece of social science and has been repeated many times over the intervening decades to understand how children perceive scientists. But when David Miller from Northwestern University looked at Chambers' original data, published in 1983, one trend leaped out. Of the almost 5,000 drawings produced within the study, just 28 depicted a female scientist, and all of those were drawn by girls. Not a single boy drew a woman. While it is easy to take a pessimistic attitude that maybe things haven't changed that much, that isn't true. Miller and his colleagues have now analyzed 5 decades of data from 78 studies, where more than 20,000 children were collectively asked to draw scientists. And they've shown that over that period, children have become more likely to draw women scientists. From the 1980s onwards, on average, 28% of children drew female scientists, compared to 0.6% in Chambers' original study. This makes sense. Since the 1960s, female representation in science has substantially increased. Female scientists, though still often outnumbered by male peers, more frequently appear in textbooks, magazines, and TV shows aimed at children. Miller's team also found that the gender stereotypes about scientists are stronger among boys than girls. Excluding Chambers' original study, girls drew female scientists around 45% of the time, while boys did so just 5% of the time. However, that's hardly unexpected. Children usually draw their own gender even when asked to draw a generic person, let alone a scientist. However, it's notable that even girls, as they grow up, become more likely to draw scientists as men. At age 6, girls draw 70% of scientists as women, but this proportion flips around ages 10 to 11, and by 16, they draw around 75% of scientists as men. Middle school is a critical period in which they're learning this gendered information about what is a scientist. It is proven, thanks to Scully, that learning about women in these lines of work helps young girls understand the possibilities of what they can become when they get older, and that science and leadership are for girls just as much as they are for boys.
We often think about male scientists when asked to think about science, but there are some pretty amazing female scientists as well. Have you heard of any of these female scientists?
Tu Youyou was born in China and is a pharmaceutical chemist. She won the 2015 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine with 2 other people for her work in discovering drugs used to treat malaria. Her work has saved millions of lives all over the world. She's the first woman from the People's Republic of China to receive a Nobel Prize in any category. Mary Maynard Daly was the first Black woman to earn a PhD in chemistry. In her work, she made important strides in research around the connection between heart health and cholesterol. Researching the connection between heart health and cholesterol in 1955, Daly's chemistry research contributed greatly to the field of medicine.
STEM fields aren't the only areas that feed into science and technology policy. Let's take a look at some pioneers that are women in politics as well. Before celebrating these women pioneers, let's take a look at how women are viewed globally and how that affects their status in politics.
The Gender Social Norms Index, released by the United Nations Development Program, measures how social beliefs obstruct gender equality in areas like politics, work, and education, and contains data from 75 countries, covering over 80% of the world's population. This new analysis reveals that despite decades of progress closing the equality gap between men and women, close to 90% of men and women hold some sort of bias against women, providing new clues to the invisible barriers women face in achieving equality, and a potential path forward to shattering the glass ceiling. According to the index, about half of the world's men and women feel that men make better political leaders, and over 40% feel that men make better business executives, and that men have more right to a job when jobs are scarce. Additionally, 28% think it is justified for a man to beat his wife. These statistics demonstrate our need to continue to fight for equality, especially in the sectors that need it most, like STEM and politics, the two sectors that feed into science and technology policy. Approximately 30% of the science and technology policy sector is comprised of women, and highlighting the women that are making gains in these arenas helps inspire more women to create their own paths in these sectors.
Let's take a look at some of the female politicians that are leading the way in global politics.
When the Harvard-educated Ellen Johnson Sirleaf delivered her presidential inauguration address in 2005, she told the crowd of Liberian supporters and international dignitaries that her 6-year term would mark a fundamental break with the past. And she wasn't just referring to the fact that she had just become not only Liberia's first female president, but also the first female head of state in all of Africa. Following decades of military coups, civil war, and violence, largely led by former Liberian dictator Charles Taylor, Sirleaf vowed to put an end to deep-seated government corruption that had left Africa's oldest republic in disarray for so long. Like Liberia's Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was exiled from her home country by a military dictatorship, Michelle Bachelet was forced to leave Chile in 1975 after first being imprisoned and tortured by Augustin Pinochet's military regime. After returning to Chile 4 years later, Bachelet got involved with the Socialist Party and in 2002 was appointed the country's first female Minister of Defense. During the 2006 election, the Socialist Party tapped Bachelet to run as its presidential candidate, and the divorced mother of 3 narrowly won and became the first female president in Chilean history. Deftly steering the nation through the international financial recession in 2008, Bachelet also earned kudos for her government's investment in improving early childhood education and assistance to low-income families. In a 1988 letter published in the New York Times, Geraldine Ferraro wrote, "I am the first to admit that were I not a woman, I would not have been the vice presidential nominee. 4 years prior, the Democratic Party had selected the former assistant district attorney from Queens as running mate for Walter Mandel in the 1984 U.S. presidential election. It was the first time a woman representing a major political party had ever landed on the ticket. Her selection was interpreted by many as a way to court women at the polls, but her liberal stances on abortion and support of the Equal Rights Amendment also turned off more conservative voters, male and female alike." Nevertheless, Ferraro was hailed as a trailblazer even in defeat, symbolizing women's potential to lead in American politics.
Well, that is about all the time that we have for this lunch hour. I look forward to seeing you in episode 7, Fighting Gender Bias in Science and Technology Policy. Facts for lunch from a real lady.